All right, so we would all agree, especially in the environment we're in right now, that we can tell the media kind of shapes perception. They can kind of put things out there, and people are going to go with it. Now, I think we all like to kind of say that we're not victims of that, but I think if we all were honest, we could see that we're all victims of it. And I'm bringing that up right now just because I think it kind of goes into Kevin Durant versus Kawhi. But first, let me say that segment by Nick, I don't agree with everything he's saying. He's trying to put some facts. I don't think that that's all fair to Kawhi. I think there's some context to that stuff. But again, his overall point that when you're looking at Kawhi as an all-time player, not just where he is right now, I think some of that stuff is important. And I think that goes into what I was just saying about the media. I'm going to bring that up now. Is that, Kawhi's really never had to play under the pressure of like a Kevin Durant, and certainly not like a LeBron James, but even others like Kawhi. This is probably the first season that Kawhi has come in with any kind of expectation of himself to like win the title. So let me give you some great examples of that. Guys like Russ and Harden or LeBron, those guys can't get away with losing in the first round or losing like really at all, at some point for LeBron. But let's just look at Kawhi's career. Like when he was in San Antonio, he lost in the first round to the Clippers. That Clippers team that never got to the conference finals, they beat the Spurs in the first round with Kawhi Leonard on the floor, Kawhi also lost to OKC the year OKC went to the Western Conference Finals. They were down 0-1 to the Spurs, and OKC won 4 out of 5 games against them. Kawhi was on the floor. And again, I bring those up because those aren't really things that people talk about, in his career. Even when they happened, no one was really looking at Kawhi sideways. He never had to play with the pressure that a lot of these guys had because his career, he just wasn't as good, earlier in his career. He didn't really become this kind of player until, like I said, about 3-4 years ago, which, again, he's been great during that time. But when you're having to play and prove yourself under that pressure over and over again, that's when you really get to see, So, again, like Durant, we're talking about these same years. Durant had beaten Kawhi. Kawhi lost to the Clippers. I mean, in these years, all these players we still talk about now were playing under pressure. Russ, KD, Harden, LeBron, all these guys were. But Kawhi, he just was he was under the radar. And I think that's important because the media has they can shape these opinions of what we think. So say there was pressure on Kawhi and he lost in the first round, then there'd be some kind of uprising. Oh, what about Kawhi? He needs to be better. He needs to do this. And if he had lost that next year to OKC, it'd be like, well, what's going on here? Like, this is supposed to be the best, whatever he's supposed to be. And he's lost 2 straight years. He hasn't, lived up to the expectations, So I think that since he hasn't had to deal with a lot of that, we don't always point at Kawhi's warts or point at the things that he hasn't done like we do all the other great players that have been great, through the entire decade or so. So, again, that just all kind of came to me. I was thinking about something one of my friends told me. He's a big Steph fan, only been watching the NBA for maybe a few years before Steph and the Warriors blew up. But he talked about how when Steph was on his MVP run, his unanimous one, that there was all that talk of, Steph, is he better than LeBron? They were comparing Steph to Michael Jordan. And he admitted to me about a month ago, he was like, back in the day, he would believe that stuff, like, because he was a Steph fan and Steph was just so incredible that year. I mean, that year was, we might not see nothing like that for a while, even, looking back at it. So, but he said he just kind of drank the Kool-Aid the media was given. They wanted to make stories and they wanted to talk about Steph. Steph is better than LeBron, comparing him to MJ and stuff like that. Like, ridiculous stuff thinking about it, but that's, he would believe it because that's just what the media was telling him. He didn't know. Again, so with KD and Durant, I don't know who's better now. You can go either way, but when you look at all time, I really just think it's Kevin Durant pretty clearly. Just the longevity and again having to play under the pressure of you need to get this done. Kawhi, this is the first year in his career that he's ever had to do that. Even the good San Antonio teams, when they lost, I just told you they've lost multiple times when they didn't make the finals. Like, that pressure didn't come back on Kawhi.